Sometimes when you're driving down the road all by yourself, you begin to hear a voice that tells you need to look around, pay attention, maybe something isn't quite right. That voice is me. It's the voice of Gord. G'day everybody, welcome to another episode of Voice of Gord. Got a real special one for you today. A mystery guest, a man that many people have seen photos of online. His legendary selfies have made it across many platforms and have been shared by others. He's sort of a niche micro-celebrity, a meme, as it were, unto itself. The man, the legend, the hats, Mr. Kenneth Koehnke, is joining Voice of Gord. We've been waiting a long time to get this guy on. Took a little digging to actually find him, get his phone number and email address, and I finally nailed him down for a little discussion. And he's quite the character, and he shares his life story with us and many interesting anecdotes about his life on the road. He is an OTR long-distance truck driver here in America. Hauls reefer, goes back and forth to the west coast and down into the south. Very interesting guy. I'm not gonna give any more of it away. Mr. Koehnke, he's quite the character, and he speaks for himself. You guys are gonna dig it. I wanna thank a Twitter anon for helping me locate Mr. Koehnke. You guys all know him as Big Sib, the big dog Sib. Sib has been instrumental in propagating the legend of Kenneth Koehnke, sort of taking on his images and his selfies and adding his own spice to it. And Sib really helped me out by helping to locate Kevin, and I just wanted to thank him very much for making this show happen. Also, while we're here, it's been tough miles in the trucking industry here as of late. Rates are in the toilet, we're over capacity. All kinds of things are conspiring against us. There's still parts shortages, and we're just having a bad time. You know, the government's throwing more bodies into the mix, and we're way over. There's too many drivers. There's not a driver shortage. There's a excess of drivers. You all know who I'm talking about. The people that are assisting the government in suppressing your wages and rates. It's just that things are messy out there. I just wanted to say thanks to all you guys that are still out there, still putting a mile down. Still keeping it real, keeping it classy, representing the industry well. We're thinking about you here at Voice of Gord. I drive myself. It's, things are tough, and I just want to let you know we're thinking about you here. This show is for you guys. And I want to extend an invitation. If there's any drivers out there that have an interesting story to tell, you think you have something to contribute, you want to come on the podcast, by all means, get a hold of me. You can email me, gordilocks, GORDILOCKS at protonmail.com. While we're here, some more shout outs to my boy Mike Lombard, to Reed and all the guys on the Lost Freight Discord, where we hang out and discuss aspects of the industry. My friends Jim Heffernan and Lee and Lisa Schmidt at CDL Drivers Unlimited, who are working in the background, trying to, take the fight to DC a little bit, see if they can't get the government off our backs. And there's lots of good people out there. I wish I could shout out to everybody, but y'all know who you are. Some of you may have noticed I'm no longer on Twitter. Yeah, third time's the charm. Justin Trudeau is a vindictive and venal man, and his security services have come at me again. I suspect most likely for my recent episode with Granny McKay, and for daring to speak on behalf of the Coots 4 and the Kafka-esque miscarriage of justice they're going through right now. 500 days, no bail, no trial, spurious charges, just for daring to participate in the Freedom Convoy. Go back and listen to that one if you haven't heard it yet. I'll address the Twitter suspension more and my history with that website on my Substack. While you're here, if you miss me from Twitter, subscribe to my Substack, autonomoustruckers.substack.com. You'll find all of these podcasts. They can get mailed right into your inbox if you subscribe. I'm hoping to get some more writing done here as things have been really slow in my industry, and hopefully I'll have some time. I know I've been saying that for months now, but it looks like I'm finally going to get it and get some more written content out there for you. So please, go to autonomoustruckers.substack.com, smash that subscribe button, send it to your friends, tell your friends, share it on social media. As always, this show, I don't charge any money, I don't take any advertising. This is my gift to all of you, and the only thing I ask is that you pass it around, send it to other truck drivers, send it to anybody in logistics and supply chains, curious onlookers, academics, whoever, hitchhikers. I got a few, speaking of hitchhikers, I got a roundtable discussion with some fellow hitchhikers and train jumpers coming up in the next few weeks. I think you guys are really going to like that. And a few other episodes in the works. Thanks for listening, and I'm going to get you guys to the legend, to Kenneth Koehnke. Let's go. G'day, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Voice of Gord. I'm Gord, and this is my voice. The other voice you're about to hear today, you've probably never heard, unless maybe you were around on Facebook a few years ago before his account got hacked, but you've probably seen many photos of the gentleman that you're about to hear in his famous outfits and his very famous hats. Please welcome to the show, Mr. Kenneth Koehnke. Uncle Kev, the big dog, the man, the legend. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine. I'm a truck driver, coast to coast truck driver, and cabbage and produce farmer from Appleton and Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Right on. You're quite well known. There's a friend of mine who's a big fan of yours and used to take your photos from Facebook and put them on Twitter and in some of your videos. And apparently you've got quite the social media following. You're actually like one of the most famous truckers in America, as a matter of fact. And I'm really glad I finally got a hold of you to get you on the show here. Right now, where exactly are you, Kev?
I'm in Walcott, Iowa today at the world's largest truck stop, they claim, in west of Chicago, about maybe 100 some miles.
You're at the miles west of Chicago. You're at the Iowa 80.
Iowa 80 truck stop in Walcott, Iowa.
And where are you heading, sir? What direction are you going? What you got on board?
I went out to Washington and I picked up a whole load of apples and pears and 4 pickups all around within 1,600 miles of Wenatchee, Washington, keeping them at 34 degrees. They put them asleep at 33 degrees. They can keep them for up to 3 years in storage. Take the air away from them, keep them 34, and they don't get any riper. And I'm keeping them continuous at 34, and I'm taking them to Cato Foods in Indianapolis, bought out by Spartan Nash from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Taking them, dropping hook in there, and then I'm getting a load of pot pie dinners someplace around Indianapolis, and taking them down to Kroger Foods in Memphis, Tennessee. And then I'll get a load and I'll head back to Michigan, and I'll get another load and head back to Washington State or Seattle or Portland, Oregon for another load of furniture made in Michigan by Hayworth Furniture Company. And I'll take that back out there for a brand new giant Costco new offices in Seattle, Washington. And then I'll go and pick up another load of pears and bring them back to apples, pears, probably a whole load of cherries, because cherries are just getting ripe in the next 4 weeks. So now through July, so I'll be getting a load of cherries next and bringing them back to Grand Rapids, Michigan. Or Lansing, back to Myers Foods. Or
you really burn up the miles, Uncle Kev. You really work pretty hard. Is there any break anywhere in there other than your mandated 34-hour resets?
Nope, that's all I ever get. That's all I've ever had in the last 17 years. I worked for a company in Green Bay, Wisconsin, called WEL, Wisconsin Express Lines. Everybody's seen their trucks. I worked for them for 10 years, nonstop hauling cheese to every food warehouse in America. And I went through a used Volvo, a used Freightliner, and a brand new Peterbilt. And I put $1,386,000 on it, brand new. And then I left them and went to another company in Madison, Wisconsin, hauling dehumidifiers out to marijuana growers in California and Arizona that take 1,000 pints of water out of the air per day, called April Air Dehumidifiers in Poinet, Wisconsin. To Chinese and Russians are taking giant old factories and warehouses all over California and growing marijuana in these warehouses, and they got to take the moisture out. Put rows of these dehumidifiers to take 1,000 pints of water out per 24, so it don't get moldy, and they'll rewater with the same water. And they said they're making millions of dollars. Chinese and Russian dudes, they tell me when I deliver these, shipping that all over the world, making millions of dollars. The marijuana bud, and but now it's getting too competitive. There's too much of it growing. In the Michigan, the price dropped way down from, I guess, $200, $300, $400 an ounce down to $20 to $60 per ounce, where nobody can make a profit because they're all growing it in Michigan. They're all allowed to grow so many plants a person afford a permit, and I think it's like 21, 25 plants a person or something.
So
My friends live up there in Michigan, and
you don't strike me as the kind of guy that would be sort of smoking them left-handed cigarettes. You strike me as a sort of straight-laced, hard-working dude. You know, I wouldn't think the marijuana business would be the sort of thing you'd get involved in.
No, well, I just do my job and haul the dehumidifiers out there made in Poinet, Wisconsin, by April Air Dehumidifiers, they call them, or research products, they call their company. And I haul them out there, and I only smoked marijuana one time when I was 16, riding along from our produce farm, cabbage and cauliflower, sweet corn farm in Appleton, Wisconsin. They asked me to ride along. We helped my load in Chicago at the produce market when I was 16, and the truck driver driving a large car, long nose Peterbilt for giant sleeper, told me to sit in the middle of the sleeper on the way to Chicago from our farm. And our produce broker's nephew, he sat in the passenger seat, and the driver sat in his, and they smoked it. They had a little pipe and a little wood box, a sliding door on it, packed full of marijuana. And back in the late 70s, early 80s, and they smoked it all the way down to Chicago and had the cab so full of smoke we couldn't see each other. And hand unloaded bags of cabbage, 900 bags of cabbage at the Chicago produce market at 2:30 in the morning. And then they said, well, now marijuana makes you want greasy, eat a lot of chocolate and greasy food. So we had to stop on the way back in a restaurant and get a bunch of greasy grilled ham and cheese sandwiches and greasy potato chips and fried potatoes. And they smoked it all the way back to the farm. And I had to get out and bend over and cut cabbage all day long again for another 14 hours of hand picking sweet corn and cutting cabbage and filling wagons in the field all day long.
So you grew up on a family farm in Wisconsin. That's where you got your start.
Yep, Appleton, Wisconsin, off the southeast runways of the Appleton, Wisconsin airport. And half of the airport was built on my grandfather's farm on the east side, and my dad bought 25 acres from him in the early 70s and built his first brand new house in a steel shed to pack our produce in and keep our equipment in 1971, and put us to work with 40 acres of cabbage and cauliflower and 100 acres of hand-picked sweet corn, and we grew it up to having 6 acres of slicing cucumbers for his kids to pick 25 times a year, 10 acres of bell peppers, 100 acres of hand-cut cabbage and cauliflower, and 160 acres of hand-picked sweet corn for the fresh market, and shipped semi-loads of cabbage and sweet corn and bell peppers and cucumbers all over the United States that you buy in the store, your fresh produce market, by the semi-load. And so I've been busy ever since I was 6 years old. My dad put his kids to work. And then I wanted to drive trucks, so my dad drove a dump truck all day and came home and farmed with the rest of us at 6 at night till 3 o'clock in the morning every night after school from Easter until Thanksgiving. And then we had the winter off in Wisconsin because, the lakes get 2 to 3 feet of ice and we go ice fishing all winter and every weekend and on the lakes west of Oshkosh and Appleton. And
So you've
have
basically been trucking your whole life then.
I've been trucking, yep, since they got off the farm about 23 years old. They taught me in 2.5 hours how to drive an 18-wheeler construction company. They gave me I took a written test, got the chauffeur's license in 1983. And then they taught me how to drive an 18-wheeler in 2.5 hours and gave me $500 for a graduation present at 8:30 in the morning and told me to go and enjoy myself and start tomorrow. And then then they gave me 80 to 140 hours a week hauling powder cement in stone and sand to ready mix plants out of Milwaukee, Manitowoc, and Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Interesting origin story. And you're very well known for food posting. And when you send me text messages, you often remark on the food you're eating. So it only sort of follows that you started out on a farm.
Right. Yeah, we got to learn drive farm equipment at 6, and we had a 30-acre apple orchard my dad rented in the house west of Appleton, Wisconsin, apple, pear, and cherry orchard. And he had to spray them every Saturday. So when I was 6 years old, he let me and my two brothers take turns driving the tractor ahead, a Cub farm all with a power takeoff and a trailer sprayer mixing the chemicals. Well, he walked around with a 150-foot hose and sprayed fungicide, insecticide on the apples from when the blossoms come on until you pick them every Saturday. And then we did that for an extra income outside of his driving a quad axle dump truck that my father did. And then we got started farming with cabbage and cauliflower, all the vegetables, 5 acres tomatoes, 6 acres of slicing cukes, picked 25 times a summer by us, not no hired migrants. Me and my cousins, about 5 of my cousins and my 2 brothers, and we'd pick them with 5-gallon buckets, and between of 150 acres of hand-picked sweet corn, picking 3,000 to 4,000 dozen of sweet corn every morning. And before we walked 1 mile to the bus,
so you
1 mile to the bus trade.
You're the last of the generation of Americans that actually picked your own fruit, picked your own veggies.
Right. My dad paid his own nephew $6.50 an hour in the late 70s, early 70s and late 70s. If they wanted to work that hard work out in the fields all day, we had to grow our own cabbage plants and pull them by hand, pack them in boxes, and then transplant on about 3 to 4 acres a day of cabbage, and then cauliflower later on in end of July and August. And be cutting that all the way until Thanksgiving time, till it froze in Wisconsin. And we did 1 semi-load every night after work. And I got to meet all these truckers in the late 60s, starting in 1967, coming to our farm every night to pick up a load of cabbage. After school, my mom and my aunt filled 6, 7 wagons of cabbage, and we hand-packed 18 heads in a bag or box. And then we loaded a semi with a rubber belt conveyor, put 3 or 4 of his kids in the semi-trailer and stacked them on the floor to the ceiling to the back door. And 50 pounds of cabbage in every wax coated cardboard box or mesh bag, the string built in the bag, and stacked them on the floor to the ceiling to the back door. My mom counting every bag going up the elevator. And so these old truckers were a lot different rules back then. They showed us kids inside their big fancy trucks in the late 60s and early 70s. And they would have 2 big coolers packed full of beer and whiskey where they could reach from the driver's seat and they'd be standing around watching his kids load them up, drinking a can of beer, and some of them were team drivers dressed like movie stars with fancy clothes on, and they were drinking a beer, and some were saying, "This is a marijuana cigarette." They're telling us kids, "You want to smell it?" My mom, "You want to smell it?" And I go, "Yeah, it smells like maple syrup of some kind." And back from 1967 to 1978, them guys had coolers packed full of beer and whiskey and smoking marijuana cigarettes. Some of them, about 25% of them. And then they said they had this little toothpick in their pocket, in their shirt pocket, and that was supposed to be soaked in cocaine, and that was called their West Coast turnaround. So they said they could drive the truck all the way from Wisconsin to California, suck on that toothpick, and drive her all the way back to Chicago and get the load of produce off. Then come to our place, get a new load of cabbage or cauliflower or bell peppers or sweet corn, and take that to some food warehouse up to New York or down to Alabama or Georgia, or we even shipped cabbage and cauliflower to Trinidad. A country called Trinidad bought semi-loads of our cabbage and cauliflower and shipped. I think that sounds like a island somewhere out in the Pacific.
No, Trinidad's an island off the coast of Venezuela in South America, but that's quite the sort of influence, the seeing all these guys coming to your farm and getting to meet that type of characters, the sort of romantic old days of trucking. That was a hell of a way to get introduced to it.
Right. And a lot of them had their wives with them or girlfriends. And I said, I want to be a trucker when I was in grade school. And these guys are standing around drinking a beer and smoking a cigarette or marijuana cigarette. I said, these guys are like movie stars. I said, and they get to tour the country, stop at restaurants, and they have a good meal every day. I said, what a life. I said, I want to try that someday, And every trucking company from the United States came to our yard. They'd haul something to Chicago, and then they would deadhead up to Appleton. They'd find it on the load board at that big broker. What's his name? The big broker. I know it well. My mind is slipping a little bit right now. The big truck broker, C.H. Robinson. They'd go on there, and our produce broker put loads on there. They'd deadhead up to one of the 32 growers growing cabbage, cauliflower, bell peppers, and sweet corn west of Oshkosh, Appleton, and Green Bay out. And that's where the sauerkraut plant is from. Bear Creek, Wisconsin, northwest of Appleton or Green Bay. The Flanagan brothers, they call it Wolf River Trout, Great Lakes Trout, their brand names, sauerkraut. And Ryan Downs owns it now. And he's the guy that put that pickle in all gas stations in one package. You see that pickle, carrot, or celery in every gas station. That's the Cheyenne or Bear Creek sauerkraut plant, Flanagan Brothers, Wolf River Trout, Great Lakes Trout. And he built a plant just north of Appleton, and he calls it in Little Chute, Wisconsin, all automated. Actually, robots, they told me, make all that. And he buys the pickles all pre-pickled from farmers who do that in big vats on their farms, and dill pickles. One pickle in the package for $1.67, or a couple of slices of carrots, or a couple of slices of celery. My friend in Michigan, that's a multimillionaire, said, man, that's one smart man that can figure out how to sell all these people going to work and coming home from work and stopping in gas stations to buy a pickle for a piece, one pickle in the package.
Yeah, I'd imagine the upcharge on that's probably pretty high. So let me ask you a question, Kev. You mentioned that you were inspired by these guys, as you said. They seemed a little bit Hollywood, trucking back and forth across the country, getting a good square meal. A lot of the photos people are acquainted with are you enjoying yourself at truck stops or casinos. Well, where's your favorite places to eat, and what do you think about truck stops nowadays compared to what they were like back in the day?
Well, the truck stops used to be good. up until that virus came, that man-made fake virus called coronavirus. Till that happened, most TAs and Petros had a full buffet and salad bar for about, used to be $8 to $12, then it went up $12 to $16. An average meal truckers pay in the last, before the virus hit. And now after the virus, a lot of buffets and salad bars shut down, but some states had good Republican governors like Florida and South Dakota, Kristi Noem, and she didn't shut down none of the restaurants. And there's a restaurant in Mitchell, South Dakota that's got truck parking right off the highway. And they kept their buffet and salad bar open during the whole pandemic, 24/7 they're open. And a lot of people jacked their prices now since this virus for all truckers are paying 22, 20, 24, 50, 28, 50, 32, 50 to 44, 50 for every meal. But some of the restaurants in like South Dakota I'm talking about, they kept the prices down still about less than $16 or $18 that I stopped at in the last couple of weeks in South Dakota, like Belle Fourche.
Belfort. I've been to that truck stop in Belfort a long time ago. I work fairly local in New York and Pennsylvania these days. I haven't done too much OTR stuff in quite a while, so that's why I'm asking and I'm trying to gauge it, because you look like you thoroughly enjoy yourself. So never mind the prices. How about the quality of the food? How do you think about that?
The food is still good in old-fashioned restaurants across South Dakota and everything, but the food got diminished like the big Petros. They jacked their prices like up in Ontario, California. There's a TA and a Petro side by side, and every truck driver knows about that. And they got the buffet going inside the Petro. They told me, but I haven't ate there because in the Field Island they're selling a whole buffet of chicken. They make full chicken dinners, or they got Salisbury steaks that are the size of them that are buying in a pan. Salisbury steaks about big as your hand, two of them, little pile of mashed potatoes and gravy, little pile of green beans, and they're charging all the truckers for that $28.50 in Ontario, California, in the Field Island for that dinner, white styrofoam box, $28.50 without the drink. And they're making burritos there, steak burritos and stuff for if you want them the way you want them made, with a lot of peppers or steak. But about 28 to 32.50 for every meal in the Field Islands of the Petro in Ontario, California, where they're serving that little buffet of food there, handing out in a styrofoam box. Then they got tables set up outside for you to eat them. Sit down outside to eat outside there by the Field Islands, so that's pretty decent. They got a couple TVs playing. And but the meals went up on the average, $28.50, 34.50, 38.50, 42.50. I'm paying. Popeye's chicken is the worst. 8 pieces of chicken in a large coleslaw and a large mashed potatoes, and a couple of them beans and rice, which are very small, and they'll charge me $48.95 for that at Popeye's chicken.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
It's kind of obscene how they're, overcharging the people that sort of keep this country moving and keep everybody else fed. And I'm sure you see it. I don't think there's too many people missing their meals. You'd think they'd try and not hose the hardworking truck driving man such as yourself,
Right. Like my friend that's driven his whole life like me, he said, screw that. These guys saying, well, I can save a lot of money by going to Walmart and cooking in my truck. That's bullshit. He said, screw that. you and I, we still go to a full blown restaurant and have our same meal we had when our dads took us out to restaurants. When our dads took us out to restaurants when we were 5 and 6 and 8 years old. Like the Wisconsin restaurants, they serve large portions for a reasonable price. Family restaurants for breakfast, just supper. Then we got the supper clubs in Wisconsin. All of them serve like no other state other than the big Texan and Amarillo. Serve a minimum of a 32 or 36 ounce prime rib. And then it goes up to 64 ounce, 72 ounce, 164 ounce or 116 ounce prime rib steaks. And Thursday and Saturday night is prime rib night at every family owned supper club with 140 items on the salad bar in Wisconsin.
Yeah, that the old school supper club thing, which was like across a lot of the Midwest. It's a sort of cultural fixture of that place that I think more places should replicate. And I wonder if that's sort of dying off with the new times. But another image you're famous for sharing is you seem to enjoy casinos. I'm assuming there's lots of casino complexes on your routes that have truck parking, and then you wheel in there and have a few drinks and a feed too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. I enjoy going to when at the last company I was at over in called BCP Trucking. I was there for 7 years, and they haul windows and dehumidifiers and marijuana growers every week out to California. So I did that for 7 years, and then or windows out of Medford, Wisconsin, right aside of the Tombstone Pizza plant. Herd Windows, which was bought out by Sierra Pacific Windows from Red Bluff, California, their headquarters. And Sierra Pacific makes doors and windows in Red Bluff, California, 160 miles north of Sacramento. And they got a plant making this really cool looking like cedar siding. Instead of siding, you can make this like redwood siding and put on your house, made by Sierra Pacific in Red Bluff, California. And I would haul the windows out of there and doors all the way to Brooklyn, New York. But I would stop at the big casino called Rolling Hills Casino in over there in Corning, California, just south of Red Bluff. And I stayed there taking 34 off 4 different times. And 2 New Year's Eves ago, I made $4,800 on 4 machines right in a row on New Year's Eve night at the Rolling Hills Casino in Corning, California. And that's a beautiful casino. And they also made me a 32 ounce ribeye steak. It was very good bone-in ribeye steak, 32 ounce at the bar. And then that was, I enjoyed that. It cost about $60, but what the heck, you get good food, and they had to pay for every potato separate, another $9.95 for a giant potato, sour cream and butter and cheese, and every item separate. $10 for this, $10 for that.
So you're really famous for all these custom made hats, right? You have these hats that have your name, Kenneth Koehnke, right wing capitalist, dysfunctional right. Democrats, Democrats or communists. So in your trucking career, you're having to go to Democrat controlled areas a lot, like Washington, California, New York, Michigan these days, although Michigan's an odd one because Michigan's kind of like upstate New York. It's controlled by cities, but everybody in the countryside's not like that. I just wonder, given your very outwardly expressed political beliefs, how do you find dealing with a state like California, which is well known for not being friendly to truckers?
Well, California is kind of hard on everybody that owns a business because they got really bad, stupid Democrats running the state of California. Like their governor, he is the stupidest person ever, and they almost voted him out. And anyhow, their governor from California, the stupidest person ever. A lot of people they said, are moving up U-Haul. I talked to U-Haul people that run U-Hauls in California businesses, and they said they're booked up for a year and a half ahead of time on people who want to just leave California and move to Texas or Florida, where they got a reality governor, and the states are run right, Florida and Texas. A lot of them are moving out, and they're hard. The dairy farmers are leaving California that I've talked to and moving up to Idaho, where they can operate freely without the communist rule of Gavin Newsom. He's a pure communist, and anyhow, and they got really. They almost voted him out, but I took pictures of all the signs about Newsom's policies against the farmers all over California. I got several on my phone I'd taken, and they almost impeached him and threw him out, and hired that talk show host. What was his name? That was going to run for governor against Gavin Newsom and take his job, and talking a nice black constitutional Republican guy named he's a newscaster, I think. What was his name again? He was going to take over Gavin Newsom's job in California, become the new governor, and make it right again, because he was a real right-wing Republican governor. He wanted to be. I can't remember his name offhand, but I got several pictures of that all the farmers made of against Newsom. They shut off the water in 700 miles in California. In Northern California, they shut the water off for irrigation because of a little minnow called Delta Schmelt, and the environmentalists shut the water off to the farmers so the minnow they could suck in irrigation pipes, irrigation pumps, and get killed for a minnow that's not even a native to the United States. The Delta Schmelt was brought in by foreigners and let go in ditches in California.
So
irrigation ditches and multiple.
How's your experience there trucking though? Like, have you got much trouble from the California Highway Patrol or any of the scales there or anything? Like, have they given you a hard time at all personally?
No, the company I'm at now, they got a good DOT rating from Hudsonville, Michigan, called Jalisco. So I'm getting green lighted past every scale. But if the last company was starting to get a bad record from Deerfield, Wisconsin, BCP Trucking, and I was pulled in quite a few scales then and checked out. But they pretty much every state trooper that's ever pulled me over in my lifetime for any reason, like following too close, or a couple times they said, and I go, oh, you got to follow too close because it's rush hour and it's bumper to bumper. How'd you pick me out? He said, everybody else is doing that right now. And anyhow, when the state trooper pulls me over, I started talking about the old days on the farm in John Deere's, and they pat me on the shoulder and say, damn, I remember the old days and the old John Deere tractors, 2 days on the farm, and when we were kids. And they tell me, hey man, just go and have a nice day. I'm sorry for pulling you over. Every state trooper that's ever pulled me over, only about 7 times in my life I was actually pulled over by a scale or a state trooper on the highway. And
what do they think about your
then
hats?
They go,
do you ever show them your hat collection?
Oh, they love my hat collection. Most of them are Republicans, even in California. They love my hats, and I give them. I ran 2 black state troopers riding in the same car. I was riding on a curve in Highway 15 in California, in the road curve. I looked in my mirror to make sure nobody was following me or inside of me. And then I dropped a $25 hot cigar, whiskey flavored cigar, on the floor. And I was bending over to pick it up. And then I leaned over the dotted line, and I was at Well in Green Bay. And these 2 black colored state troopers, about 65 years old, as they were passing me at a high speed, right when I leaned over the dotted line, I forced them in the median strip, and they went sideways. They went they went, they pulled it back out. Dust was flying up. They went the other way sideways, and he pulled it back out, and he flew like the Dukes of Hazzard through the air and popped back on the highway. And then he got behind me, and I go, "Oh shit! I wonder if they're gonna pull my ass over for that." Anyhow, I just kept tooling along, and all of a sudden the red lights came on, and I pulled over, and two black state troopers, one got out of the car that was driving, and the other one sat in the car, and he came up on my right side and rolled down my windows, and he said, he looked like Richard Pryor. He was like 60 years old. And he goes, "What did you do that for?" He goes, "You ran me right trip. And I, do you see how I handle that baby?" He said, "I'm a race car driver on the weekends." He said, "You see how I handle that?" And I pulled it out. He said, "If that would have been grandma, she would have her choppers and rolled it 3 times." And then he goes, and I go, "Oh my, I apologize. I was leaning over picking up a cigar, but I looked in my mirror and you guys just came out of nowhere at the same time." And I leaned over the dotted line at 60 miles an hour. It's only 55 for trucks in California. And I ran him right in the median strip. And he goes, I go, "You guys, I got a couple of brand new John Deere hats for you and your partner. And I got two $25 whiskey flavored cigars." I said. He goes, "Hey man, I'm not going to give you no ticket. Thank you for the cigars. I'm going to smoke them this weekend. And I'm going to give one to my partner there in the car." And I gave him brand new John Deere hats. And he goes, "Just don't run no more state troopers in California in the ditch." He goes, that ain't good," he said. I go, "Yeah, man." I said, "You guys," I said, "You know what?" I said, "You handle that car like the best race car driver I ever saw." I said, he goes, "Hell yeah, I'm a race car driver on the weekends." He said, and I go, "You should be into the big timers, and get into the Indy 500 race, and be a NASCAR driver. You're so damn good." He goes, "Thank you, brother." And he went and got back in his car and said, "Have a nice day."
Well, that's all right. Oh, that's good. You like to hear stories like that. California Highway Patrol doing like the Dukes of Hazzard. You love to see it. So,
Yeah, I saw it.
how often do you get back home to Wisconsin? You said you've been going pretty hard here for about 17 years. Like, you must have
Oh,
some holidays and vacations once in a while. Go and see the family, like anything like that.
well, what I do is I just send my family some nice presents, and my brothers and my mother and my aunts and uncles, and they send me a birthday card. My mom always puts about $2,500 every birthday in my checkbook for me, and that's coming up June 13th. I was born Friday, June 13th, 1962 at 12 o'clock midnight on Highway 10 of my dad's 1959 International dump truck west of Appleton, Highway 10 west of Appleton. He didn't want to go to New London, Wisconsin to the hospital he lived in Fremont, 30 miles west of Appleton on the Wolf River when he owned his own dump truck. And his Johnny Cash Cadillac didn't start, so he took his dump truck to take my mom to the hospital, and she was pregnant with me. And just down the river a ways.
So let me get this
Just
straight.
down.
You were born
Yeah.
on Friday the 13th in the cab of a dump truck.
1952 International dump truck that my dad owned. Yep.
Man,
I
your life story just keeps getting better and better, Uncle Kevin. This is amazing.
Yeah, I anyhow on old Highway 10. So then my dad took his 1952 International dump truck from the house about at 10 o'clock at night, and he could have went to New London, Wisconsin, where Hillshire Farm is, but my mom's relation all lives in New London, Wisconsin. And New London, Wisconsin, I always thought as a little kid, as I grew up, my mom's relation lived there. We went and visited about three of her aunts and uncles that lived in New London, where Hillshire Farm Sausage Company is, 35 miles northwest of Appleton. And anyhow, so all the people in New London, I used to think that the show Green Acres on TV, where everybody's half cocked and half messed up, everybody's not right. I figured that was New London, Wisconsin, and my dad considered half of my mom's relation not right, and all half not put together. That lived in New London, and I figured that's where Green Acres was filmed. And everybody was half cocked. In New London, Wisconsin, and so then my dad didn't go to the hospital there. He took me all the way to Appleton, about 28 miles to Appleton Memorial with his dump truck. But back then they didn't put stone in the swamp parts of Highway 10 where it got low and swampy. They used logs underneath the pavement instead of stone before they made stone crushers when they built Highway 10. And that made in the wintertime push them logs through the pavement like speed bumps. And then my dad hit them, his empty dump truck bounced around and knocked my ass out. And I was hitting the firewall and saying, I'm here. I was born on Highway 10 halfway to Appleton from Fremont, Wisconsin at midnight.
On a road made out of logs.
Yeah, underneath they put logs instead of stone in the swamp areas back then. Pumped them up like speed bumps, major speed bumps. And my dad hit that with an empty dump truck and bounced, 3-4 ways, and then that induced the labor and knocked my ass out against the firewall. Here I am. Damn, I'm here.
You're here. So you
Friday the
13th.
22, huh?
So we were speaking on the phone a few days ago. You had some other medical issues involving a hospital. Something wrong with your toes.
Yeah, I got infection in my big toe of my right foot. I don't know, they cracked open on the bottom, and they said you have two little bones in every toe in both of your feet. And I broke the bones in my big toe, my two little bones in my big toe of my right foot. And it cracked open and got infected. And I didn't think nothing of it. So I just thought, well, I'd take care of this, keep it clean and put some salve on it. And then I stopped at Bosselman's truck stop in Grand Island, Nebraska. And one night I was taking 10 hours off there when I had the infection in my toe yet. And I was taking a load out to California dehumidifiers. And the Chinese girl working there had a massage parlor upstairs at the Bosselman's Travel Plaza. And I went and I bought $2. And she goes, no, always on foot. So she cleaned up my toe and put salve in it and wrapped it all up nice for me. And I go, thank you. You're like a nurse, And I kept it clean, and I got out to California, got the dehumidifiers off, got a load of windows for Birmingham, Alabama. And it got more infected. And I got to Birmingham, I got the windows off. A whole load of windows, then Brewmore stops in Atlanta of windows. And I got the whole load off, and then they called and they said, "Go to a hospital. Don't keep suffering. You won't make it back to Wisconsin to get work done." They said I called the nurses in Madison, Wisconsin, my health care, and they said, "Go to a hospital where we're at right now. Go to a hospital and get that taken care of because the infection might kill you before you make it back to Wisconsin." So I went and had it worked on in Brazelton, Georgia. I checked in a big hospital, and they kept me there for 6 days. They're pumping antibiotic drugs in my wrist, 4 bags at a time, and then a 1 nutrient bag, and for 4 days. And they operated on the 5th day, and the surgeon said, "I'm going to try and save your toe as much as I can. I'll reconstruct it." And I woke up and he was gone. I was the last surgery for his Friday afternoon at 2:00. And 5 o'clock, they woke me up when he was gone. They said, "Where's the surgeon? He's going to tell me what he did." The foot was all wrapped up, and still feels like it's there. And they said he's off to the taverns for the weekend. Here's his last job before he's going out to party all weekend. And I woke up and it was all wrapped up. So they kicked me out the next day of the hospital on Saturday, and I rented a car and I drove up to my best friend's place south of Grand Rapids, Michigan, in Otsego, Michigan. And I stayed on his farm and his house above the town, and he gave me a pickup to drive, and I had a flat shoe to wear, and I went to the wound care center in the University of Wyoming, Grand Rapids, Wyoming, Michigan hospital twice a week for 4 months, and had them keep me off of work on short-term disability for $1,160 a week for 12 weeks until it healed up. And then it healed up by the end of February, and I went back to work for a new company in Michigan, hauling furniture from Michigan to Oregon, Washington, and California, and produce and apples back to Michigan and Indiana.
So that would have been so that little episode with your foot would have been the longest. Was that little episode with your foot the longest you've ever been off work?
Yep, the longest I ever been off of work. That was like a super vacation. I went to Judy's restaurant in Otsego, Michigan, where my friend and all of his friends go every morning at 5 a.m. Had a 18-ounce New York strip steak every day, or a 16, 20-ounce hamburger steak for breakfast, and talked to all the people in Otsego, Michigan. And all the owner and his wife are 81 years old. They've been running the restaurant for 60 years. And I used to go there when I drove for Menasha Corporation paper and box. It had the mill in town making the big brown rolls before it's corrugated into boxes. I serviced that mill hauling scrap cardboard in through the 80s, and new rolls of paper out to other box makers all over Michigan, Ohio, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. And then toilet paper, Kotex, the toilet paper and shop towels from Green Bay, Procter & Gamble, Fort Howard, said to pay for the fuel to get the trucks over there. And they had 38 tractors and 600 trailers. Menasha Corporation paper and box from Neenah, Wisconsin. Named after the town of Menasha. There's two towns, Neenah, Menasha, that connect north of Oshkosh and south of Appleton. And Neenah is all full of Germans, and Menasha is all full of Polacks, Polish people. And they there's a lake in between them. And they built a big bridge over top that lake. And then they called it the Polish Connection. The only way the Polacks could get out, the Polish people could get out into Neenah or into Wisconsin from Menasha, is over the big bridge called the giant bridge over the lake called the Polish Connection Bridge. Menasha, Wisconsin to Neenah, Wisconsin.
Right. Have they ever sent you up to Canada in all of your trucking missions?
Yes, I did. I drove for Kimberly Clark Paper Company as a team in 1995, and they got rid of the trucks in 1996 after having their trucks for 25 years. They had 9 fleets of trucks in the United States and Canada, and they're headquartered in Neenah, Wisconsin for 150 years, Kimberly Clark Paper Company. You know, they make Kotexes, the tissue paper for your nose in a box in the last 70 years, toilet paper, like Scott Paper. They bought out the plant in Green Bay, Scott Paper. They make the best toilet paper. And then in Georgia, Kimberly Clark paper made out of cotton, and it's called Cottonelle, made out of 50% cotton and 50% pulp trees. And they call it Cottonelle if you see it in stores. And when I stayed at my friend's place in Michigan all winter, I bought him and his girlfriend 32 cases of toilet paper, enough to last them, I figured, for a whole year. I bought them Cottonelle, and
that's a very, very interesting thank you gift.
Yeah, and I bought them 5 bird feeders too. They used to just put a little bird seed on their ledge of their back porch off his $2 million house. And I bought them 5 bird feeders for Christmas and put them out there on stands And he had up to 70 Cardinals, 20 Blue Jays. All of a sudden, when I put the bird feeders up every day, 70 Cardinals were there all winter, and cleaning out 5 bird feeders full of sunflower seeds.
Do you have your own place that you ever get to at all?
Nope, I lived in the truck for the last 17 years nonstop. At Well in Green Bay hauling cheese 10 years. And then I left and I went to work for BCP Trucking over south of Madison, Wisconsin, Deerfield. I worked for them 7 years, and they wouldn't give me any time off. I would ask after being there 4 years, 5 years, and 7 years. I asked them 5 times, when I get in next week, BCP Trucking in Deerfield, I want to take off 4 days. I got family over I own a house downtown Appleton, Wisconsin, right downtown on commercial property on 2 acres of land in a commercial block. And I own a 2-family rental, and I turned it over to a rental management company. I used to try to give a guy free rent to live there and rent the other half out. And only half the people paid him rent. The other half, out of 11 people he rented to, only 4 paid rent, and 5 did not pay rent. Only paid the first 2 or 3 months and said they were hurting. So I let 6 people slide, $6,500 to $12,000 each on rent before I told them they really had to leave. And then so I turned it over to a rental management. Now I rent out both sides. And that guy took care of for 20 years and gave him free rent to live there and take care of the place for me. His brother, he moved out with his sister and brother-in-law down to Upper Michigan, someplace in Upper Michigan they moved to. And I let the rental management company rent it out, and they only take less than $200 a month for their fee. And they send me $1,750 to my checkbook every 15th of every month. $1,750 I get for renting out the house.
At some point though, like hopefully these new guys you work for, Jalisco, give you a little time off. Big dog like you needs to have a break and go and do stuff. At 17 years is an awful long time to be trucking straight.
Straight. I went straight. I went through a Volvo. They gave me a Freightliner, and then they gave me a brand new Peterbilt, and I put $1,386,000 on that Peterbilt nonstop. I went to every food warehouse, and all the caves in Missouri are full of Wisconsin cheese. Hauling cheese in and hauling cheese out. And Schreiber Cheese has got 28 plants in the country. They slice it and package it for all the stores like Kroger, Walmart, package it and date it for them, and cube it for them and package it. And I would haul Martin Brower as a distributor for McDonald's down north of Miami, Florida, haul cheese from Missouri, from Schreiber Cheese's plant, Missouri, down there to Miami. And at in 10 years, I only taken one Christmas off of my friends in Otsego, Michigan, with his whole family, because I delivered to Spartan Foods and they had to do a 34 in Grand Rapids, a whole load of orange juice from Florida. So I had to do a 34. So I spent time with my friends from Otsego, Michigan, Kelvin Wayne and his family, Sean's, and they're a very wealthy family. And I spent Christmas and Christmas Eve with them and Christmas Day. As soon as the 34 was up, the company pushed me to get on the next load. They said I was ready 4 hours late doing the 34, to get the next load and get it going again. So I only took off that, and then one Thanksgiving with them, delivering to Spartan again at Thanksgiving time. And the last company, I asked off 4 times in 7 years. And I said, when I get in next week, BCP Trucking in Deerfield, Wisconsin, when I get in, I want to take 4 days off. After I do my laundry in your lunchroom, I'm going to take off and redo my truck, 4 to 5 days off. They said, fine. When they got in, I said, okay, I'm off for 4 or 5 days. They said, if you don't want to take the next load, you're lazy and don't want to work, the owner says, if you don't want to take the next load, we got all these loads sitting here and you don't want to work after being there 5 and 7 years, go and clean out your truck and get off the property. We'll get somebody else to drive that damn truck. And that's the true story.
So you've lived in their trucks. You did nothing but take 34s. You never had a proper weekend. You didn't take no holidays. And then you asked for 4 days off, and that's how they treated you?
Yeah, they said, yep. They said, if you don't want to work, we got all these loads here. The owner just said, and I got that phone stolen with that text on it from the dispatcher. Go and clean out your truck and get off the property. If you don't want to take the next load, that's your choice. They told me that 4 times in 7 years, when I only asked off 4 times, other than the 34 you had to take off. And I thought that was kind of mean. And then one time when a broker didn't pay him for a load because of my e-log hours, I was late a day and a half, 2 days late getting it there. The broker said he didn't pay him $5,300 for a load of lettuce from California to Chicago. And they had another driver recover it from me in the middle of Nebraska when I had to do a mandatory 34. And I took his load and he took it, but he had to deal with his hours. So he's still 2 days late getting it there. And they signed off taking all A-OK romaine lettuce at 2 places in Chicago, took it all and signed off good. And he said the broker didn't pay him $5,300. So when I came in the office, he goes, "You're going to sign up with the payroll lady, take $180 a week out of every paycheck. That broker didn't pay me." And he was spinning his body and screaming and smashing his fist 8 times in a circle, screaming at me, "That broker didn't pay me. That broker didn't pay me." Acting like a little kid.
And then they wanted to take it out of your hide? That's illegal. This is nonsense.
180 a week until he got 5,300 from me. He said,
I would have thrown his keys at him.
There's the door.
I would have thrown the keys at him and told him to go and F himself.
I should have, but I said, "Oh, well, I've been screwed out of $400,000 since I've been 17 years old. Bad farming deals. I grew a sauerkraut cabbage and the guy didn't take mine. And I had record tons out in the field. He took his drinking buddies, a guy started up a sauerkraut plant that his dad ran and closed and reopened it. And he grew it and his buddies grew it and I wasn't his buddy. So he took 5 truckloads from me and it got too big where they were 28 to 32 pounds a piece, the heads and breaking open. So it's only good for, I couldn't bag it for restaurant cabbage because it was breaking open by being too big and, too big the heads were. So I couldn't sell it, put 8 to 12 heads in the 50-pound bag and sell it for restaurant or institutional cabbage for schools or jails or prisons or schools. So I ended up plowing it under and I lost about $80,000 growing that cabbage that year. And all the people that screwed me on rent checks, for my house, $6,800 to $12,600 each one, 6 different people in 20 years, screwed me out of rent. And so that way it is. And a bad farming deal and friends that screwed me out of money I trusted, screwed me out of about $400,000 since I was 17. And that guy I worked for, the broker didn't pay him.
No, it's just incredible, a hard working guy like yourself being taken advantage of. I can sort of see why you're not terribly interested in the politics of welfare and giving people something for nothing because you've worked hard your entire life,
Oh, yeah. People don't know how hard it is to work out in the fields like I did, since I was 6 and 8 years old, picking 6 acres of slicing cucumbers every day and 10 acres of bell peppers, and 80 acres of hand-cut cabbage, cut by me and my uncle, my brother, every head, every year. My mom and my aunt did all the cutting until I was 12. when I was 12, 13, my uncle and my brother and me, us three cut every head of 65 to 85 acres of cabbage and cauliflower every year with one knife and one, in the right hand and throwing them on the wagons with the left hand. Stayed bent over all day long from after picking 3,000 dozen of sweet corn from 5 until 7, and then 7 until 9 o'clock at night, stayed bent over cutting cabbage or cauliflower all day long. Cauliflower, we boxed right in the field in cardboard, put the heads right in, 12 heads in a box right in the field. 6 heads in the bottom layer of cardboard and 6 heads on top, and fold it like a beer case. Then put them on wagons and take them up to the semi and put them on the semis.
So all this hard work, and have you ever managed to squeeze in a missus or a family or anything? You got married or what?
No, I had the chance to marry the richest lady from Wisconsin, or she said I was the only one she ever liked all the way from first grade to 12th grade. And her name was Ann, and her dad owned Pierce Fire Trucks in Appleton, Wisconsin. And I could have married her, and we're still friends, I guess. And she married another guy and a couple of kids. I could have married the poorest lady, some of the poorest ladies that were. One was a Cuban lady I dated for a short time, and one was an Indian lady from Wisconsin. And I should have married any one of them. But then my dad said, "Don't get married." I wish I would have just been a truck driver, not get married, not had any effing kids. He said I'd have it made. I'd just get a big truck driving job like for Kimberly Clark Paper Company that paid in the 86,000 in the 80s, plus all the benefits, health insurance and everything. He said I would just do that, and I shouldn't have got married and had no kids. He goes, "Don't get married unless your future father-in-law is worth 10 million or more. Otherwise, stay single," he said. Don't marry some poor one like I did and have your father-in-law chasing you around for beer money, borrowing beer money loans all the time. Like my father-in-law, he said, from New London, Wisconsin. But he said, "You want to marry your father-in-law or buy you the cottage up north on the lake and buy you a new Suburban or 4-door dually pickup for your birthday,
That's certainly a strategy. I'm not quite sure that's going to work for everyone.
Right.
Right. So you're on your
That's
way to
right.
you're on your way to Indianapolis right now. Where exactly do you get all your hats made? This collection of hats you have.
Well, I'd like to help out my friends who do that. They love me to advertise for them. So in Fremont, Indiana, Angola, Fremont, Indiana, Highway 69 and 80, inside the petrol truck stop. There's a pilot across the road, and the petrol's on one side of a Kenworth dealer above the petrol truck stop on a hill. And my friend's Mike is the owner, Johnson, and he calls it innovative stitching. If you look it up on your computer or website, innovative stitching in Fremont, Indiana, or call the petrol truck stop in Fremont and ask for innovative stitching's phone number. And I have it, and I've been friends with them, and they got their machines that make all stitching for hats and jackets. So make a jacket. They made me 4 jackets that you can put a picture of anything on the back, a giant picture on the back, all stitching like I did, a picture of a John Deere field sprayer or a John Deere 4-wheel drive tractor, and a field sprayer with a cabbage, cauliflower, and onion underneath it. And then my name on the front, Capital's right winger on the left side, and my name, Kenneth Koehnke, on the right side, all stitching. And they make the jackets beautiful. And they make hats saying anything like I made over 500 hats they made me, and I paid for them, most of them. And it says like Obama's the communist, Democrats are communist, right-wing capitalists are some of my favorite hats. And my hats say all kinds, no print anything you want on them. And they said when the truckers got that stimulus money, their sales went through the roof. They made their sales 75% increase when the truckers got that $1,200 making hats and jackets. They spent it. And now the truckers are almost all broke because of a Biden administration, Democrats destroying the dollar. They said their sales are way down lately in selling truckers hats and jackets. And they sell every kind of knife from around the world, every size shaver, every kind of knife. They sell Trump coins, silver coins, copper coins, gold coins of all kinds, and they sell it all. They sell the maces that women should have in their purses if they ever get robbed or anything. The pepper spray maces they sell, and tasers that can put 100,000 volts through your body. Somebody, it looks like a flashlight. They sell several sizes of them, and it's called Innovative Stitching in Fremont, Indiana, inside the Petro.
Right.
And
So
I hope I tell a lot.
So these hats and your social media activity have made you quite famous. You've told me you've been recognized in many places. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, a lot of. I've been in 7 different Love's truck stops where the managers and workers come out and say, "Oh my God, oh my God, you're the famous guy on Facebook. Are you Kenneth Koehnke?" And I go, "Yeah." And they go, "We got to get our pictures taken with the 7 different Loves managers came out and said that." And just the other weekend, I was in Cheyenne, Wyoming, at Sapp Brothers, and 5 different people traveling together from California said, "Oh my God, is your name Kevin? You're the famous guy on Facebook, and we got to get our pictures taken with you." And they took several pictures. And then when I'm downtown Nashville, walking with for 1 mile with the taverns on both sides of the street, country music bands playing in, I go there 4 or 5 times a year, or I go to historic Fort Worth, Texas, to Billy Bob's 4 or 5 times a year. And I'm walking of Tommy Barnes. Tommy Barnes is a famous songwriter I became friends with due to my friends in Michigan that are friends with him. Tommy Barnes wrote the hits for Tim McGraw, 7 or 8 hits for Tim McGraw. I'm an Indian Outlaw, he wrote. And then I met Earl Clark. He wrote he partied, I partied with him 3 different weekends, and Tommy Barnes in Nashville. Walked the streets with them 2 guys. And Earl Clark wrote all the hits for Johnny, like I'm Thumbing My Way to Mexico, if you Google it on your computer. Johnny Rodriguez, he's got several. And Earl Clark wrote 9 hits for Johnny Rodriguez. And I got to party with Johnny Rodriguez and Tommy Barnes. When I'm walking with them with my cowboy hat on, like today, and my big Texas silver bow tie, and my big Arizona turquoise silver ring, I get groups of girls, husbands and wives, several of them, will stop me and want their pictures posed with me on the streets of Nashville or Fort Worth, Texas. And several 25 to 30 groups of college or high school girls partying in Nashville and Fort Worth, Texas will always stop me and want all their pictures posed with me of all the girls, as many as I can at a time. About over 100 pictures are flashing. And Tommy Barnes, it says, him and Earl Clark, Earl passed on now, wrote the hits for Johnny Rodriguez. He says, I'm the famous guy and nobody knows who I am. Well, I said, Uncle Tommy, I'll promote you to all these people if you want me to. I will. You know, I'm a motivator. I can get everybody on Tommy, you know. He walks the streets every Thursday night, Friday, Saturday afternoons of Nashville, and all the bartenders know Tommy Barnes and Earl Clark, but you know, the average person doesn't know him. You know, I do through my friends in Michigan, because my girlfriend's 4.5 foot tall blonde, Connie, and she works for a big E-Tix. E-Tix, and they do these 4-day weekend country music events called Country Thunders in Twin Lakes, Wisconsin. They do them in Texas. They do them in Canada. They do them in Arizona. And she's in charge of the ticket sales and the money and promotion. And she sets up country music singers in all the casinos all over the United States and Canada. So they've been out with every country music singer and been to their houses. My friend from Michigan and his girlfriend, Connie, Cal and Connie. And that's how I got to know Tommy Barnes and Earl Clark, the songwriters, and got to party with them. When I go down there, Cal will say, Kevin's in Nashville. And Tommy, if he's not doing nothing with his wife, he'll come pick me up and take me out and buy me a steak dinner, and we'll walk all the streets of Nashville together all night.
You know, do you ever bring any of your hats with you? Like, all these people know you from online. I imagine you could help your buddies out there in Fremont by having them stitch up a bunch of extra hats, and you could give them out or sell them or whatever. Like, those would be collector's items, bro.
I did. I made over 400, 500, and I buy 25 to 50 at a time, like right-wing capitalist, Democrats or communists, Republicans, right-wing Republicans, and right-wingers. Obama's a communist. George Soros a communist. Nancy Pelosi's a communist. Obama's wife ain't I write, Big Mike is Obama's husband. I made several hats saying that. Big Mike, Michelle is Big Mike, is Obama's husband.
Oh, man.
Big Mike is Obama's husband. Anyhow, I gave them out to several when I'm wearing them hats in truck stops across Idaho, Oregon, Washington. Little old ladies working in the truck stops go, my husband and my dad would love a hat like that. And I go, I'll go and get 6 of them for you to give to them out of my truck. I always carry like 25 to 50 of them. Wow, I give them out to people at my expense.
Yeah, my friend Chris said he bumped into you at a truck stop in Kentucky or Indiana or something. And man, next time he sees you, I'll have to get him to hit you up for some hats.
You can call Innovative Stitching. Google that up on your phone. I'll give you the number. Innovative Stitching in Fremont, Indiana. Call him. Rodney will answer usually, or one of his 2 other employees, or Mike Johnson that owns it. And they got all my hats saved on the computer. Tell them Kevin's hats, right-wing capitalist, Obama's a communist, all them hats are on the computer. And you can even just say you want a neon green one that really sticks out. They got now neon green ones, all colors they got. And you can tell them what you want on the hats. And they'll send you 4 of them for $120. $130. They'll send you 4 of them right to your mailbox after they make them.
I hope
you tell them what you want on the hat.
I hope you're getting a significant discount given the quantities which you order. Like, you're not paying that for the number of hats you buy.
Oh, I have. And then the more I buy, lately they've been giving me a good deal. And they even give me a Christmas present at Christmas time for buying all the hats from them that I have made. And I have made 4 jackets. They made me 4 fall and winter jackets with a picture of a farm 4-wheel drive John Deere in the back, a big field sprayer with and one with a crop duster with a cabbage, cauliflower, and onion underneath. And they look really cool. And then my right-wing capitalists on this side. And my friend said, when I stayed at his place all winter, don't wear one of your Obama's the communist hats or Democrats or communists. I took him to the hospitals downtown Kalamazoo. He said, don't wear one of them hats in the hospital in the waiting room when I had to take him for some medical issues at 10 o'clock at night to the hospital in Kalamazoo. He said, they'll shoot you down there wearing hats like that, them Democrats.
So, hey, you mentioned previously like when I first found you and got to know you, that you had some problem with your Facebook profile getting hacked and you stopped posting there.
Yeah, I tried to get off of it for about a year ago. Somebody hacked it and they were making postings. Somehow you can take, now my friend's girlfriend's in Michigan, this is true. They took my picture and then put a dress on me or put me all over Facebook with a dress on, and they were making comments that I never said, and they were saying that I lived in Idaho, and they were making comments like I seen some of them like, "Oh, you lazy truckers out there! By 4 o'clock in the morning when you're still laying in bed, I already got 700 miles on you, lazy bastards." People are posting comments. Somebody had hijacked it.
Yeah, you're getting photoshopped. So I have a request from a friend of mine. So I know you have a Twitter account, but you haven't used it very much. Um, there's a buddy of mine who shall remain anonymous, and he has taken your old Facebook postings and your other social media stuff and reposted it on Twitter and really pumped you up, really helped develop the
Good,
legend of Kenneth
good.
Koehnke. His name is Big
See,
Sib.
okay. Well, I got too many. I got maximum amount. It says maximum amount of allowable uh, on Twitter. Maximum. I'm to the max of friending more people. So
I think that's a
I'm to the
daytime.
max.
I think that's a daily thing. If you haven't logged in a while, that'll go away.
But I used to see something on Twitter that you could pay money to have more people added to your Twitter account.
No, don't do that.
More
No, you
followers.
wouldn't
No.
need that. No, don't do that, Uncle
Oh,
Kev.
okay. Okay.
My buddy Sib has done the hard yards of pushing your legend forward, and so Sib and a whole bunch of people on trucking Twitter would love to see you come back and just keep
Yeah.
posting. Just post photos,
Yeah.
say your thing, man. Express yourself, talk however you want. Like there's people on Twitter waiting to see you. You should come. You should come to Twitter.
Right. Yeah. Well, tell everybody to Google innovative stitching in Fremont, Indiana, and they'll if you know what size jacket you wear, fall, spring, or winter jacket, or one of each, they'll print any picture on the back, the whole back size of your jacket on the back, any kind of picture you want, and put your name on the right side, any 5 names on the right side, 5 different words on the left side of your jacket, and you can get and they'll send them to you in the mail, or you can get I think it's 4 or 5 hats for $130 and have every different thing in every hat printed, whatever you want, and they'll show you on the computer what it'll look like before they make it, and they'll send it to you in the mail to your mailbox. The
Right.
hats.
That's good to know. That's good to know, Kev. Hey, so I wanna say thank you very much for being so generous with your time and telling us a little bit of your life story. Um, people really love your posting, man. Like you're not even, and the funny part is you don't even do it. Like other people take your photos and they do it for you because just people love it, man. Like you got a thing going on.
Well, my friend said that in Michigan. He said that I told you his girlfriend Connie sets up all these music events in all the big casinos in the country and runs these 4-day country music concerts called Country Thunder is one, and I don't know, like 4-day rock and roll music events. And she works for a company called Etix, and she makes 160,000 a year. She told me doing that job, and she's a 4.5 foot tall, 60-year-old blonde, and she keeps herself up in really good condition. She does workouts every day and rides bikes and anyhow, so I think that's quite interesting. I met these people. That's how I got to meet Tommy Barnes and Clark, the songwriters. Look up Johnny Rodriguez songs on your computer. I like all of his songs he made. And Tommy Barnes, look up Tommy Barnes, songwriter on the video on the internet. It'll pop up and show him in a big auditorium in Nashville, and the guy talking about all the songs he wrote for all the different groups, like Tim McGraw and Keith Whitley and all the different songwriters like that. Little Texas, Brady Seals he wrote 4 or 5 or 6 hits for each one of them. They're bands from Texas, Brady Seals and Little Texas, and Tim McGraw.
All right.
And
Yeah. Well, I'm sure people will go check it out now.
And my friend in Michigan is friends with who's the famous guy from Detroit, Kid Rock. He's personal friends of Kid Rock. My Calvin Wayne Sean's my friend from Michigan and County. They're friends of Kid Rock, and they go and see him on a lot of holidays and stuff.
Oh, I bet Kid Rock would love you, man. Kid Rock and you are like, you guys are the same speed.
Oh, I know. I haven't met him yet through my friends in Michigan, but they're personal friends of him. And Tommy Barnes is really a great guy, and he wrote several hits. And he's got a Japanese wife that he married when he was in the Navy in Japan, and he built half the house for her the way they build them in Japan for the Japanese that build their houses a certain way, and the other half the houses were American way for him. And he lives 17 miles north of Nashville, Tommy Barnes, and he's a great guy. You'll see his videos if you type in Tommy Barnes, songwriter in Nashville. Will pop up several videos he made, over the years, and he's still making them.
Right. Okay. Well, I'll have
he's
everybody.
A great guy to meet.
Yeah, I bet I'm gonna have everybody go check that stuff out. Well, Kevin, listen, I really appreciate your time. I appreciate your life story. I'm sure my listeners are gonna love this. I hope you have a good trip the rest of the way down to Indianapolis, and keep in touch, man.
Yeah.
And you should come back to Twitter. A bunch of people want to see you on Twitter. I know you have an account there. You should start using it again.
I'm on Instagram too. I just got back on Instagram. I was a couple years. I'm going to get back on Facebook one of these days. I'm going to reunite it again.
All right. Well, hey, we love to see it. We love the good vibes and the hats and just your whole thing, man. It's awesome. And again, thank you very much for coming on, Uncle Kevin.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Big Doug.
I'm still single. If there's any nice women out there, that are farm girls, contact. Okay, everybody, have a nice day.
All right.
Kenneth, a hot right winger from Green Bay and Appleton, Wisconsin.
All right, way of the road, Bubs.